Something happened while I was trying to finish this painting. In this video, I'm going to talk about returning to oil painting practice after a long period of not painting at all, and some of the challenges I've found with this first mythic fantasy style portrait that I decided to take on. Now, this particular oil painting study is based on a reference photo. I have no idea who it is, but it stood out to me because it has this kind of mythic, otherworldly feel, something a bit fantastical that I really resonated with. I wanted to make my return to oil painting through a portrait study, and this is what I chose to work from, rather than doing a master study. In and around working and doing other things, I had to stop and start this painting multiple times, which I found a bit frustrating. My original intention was to paint wet on wet. I think that's one of the most enjoyable parts of oil painting. But instead of doing it a la primer in one session, it ended up happening over a series of sessions across about a week to 10 days. Even though I was happy with the result, it made me realise that I should probably challenge myself to do more frequent, shorter bursts of painting, or even commit to a longer single session, just to really push myself and see what I can do when everything else stays wet and workable. Not having to constantly remix neighbouring colours, such as skin tones, hair, fabric, changes the whole experience. Now, there were multiple times during this process where I thought, okay, I'll leave it here, I'll call it finished. But every time I stepped away and came back to it, I noticed something else I wanted to improve, even while trying to keep it loose, painterly and gestural, which was my original intention. There were definitely moments where I thought it was finished and still chose to go back in. Before I even started this painting, there was a part of me that hadn't want to take it on. Even though I wanted to do it, there was resistance. I found myself procrastinating, doing other things, even when I had planned to sit down and paint. But once I actually started, that completely changed. I was able to get into long periods of pure focus, that kind of flow state where you lose track of time, which is one of the most enjoyable parts of the whole process. It's not always easy to get into that state, but once you're there, it's actually hard to stop. And that's something I've realised again through this painting. It's made me realise I need to be doing this more often, at least on a weekly basis, giving myself the time to really get into it properly. That was probably the biggest insight for me with this piece. It's also made me want to return more seriously to design work, especially in a fantasy context. Starting to think about characters, stories, and how those ideas could eventually come into my oil paintings. But for now, I think I'm just going to focus on doing more portrait, anatomical, and landscape studies, just to fully get back into the rhythm of regular painting again. Then, from there, I can start building towards larger pieces and eventually move into more character and world-building work. These are just some of the thoughts I had while working on this. I really want to lean further into that mythic, imaginative world, so if that's something you resonate with as well, let me know. I'll be sharing more of the process and progress inside my community, The Artist Path, so feel free to join if you'd like to be part of that. I think one thing I'm noticing as I'm working on this is how easy it is to stop too early. You get to a point where it looks good enough and there's a temptation to leave it there. But usually that's exactly the point where it needs a bit more attention. It's interesting because even though I felt resistance before starting this, once I'm actually in it, I don't want to stop. There's a point where everything just clicks and you completely focus on what you're doing. And I think that's probably one of the main reasons to keep coming back to it. I think knowing when to stop is just as important as knowing what to add. There's always something else you could adjust, something you could refine, but at a certain point, you have to leave it where it feels right. I'm not going to do too much more work because I want to keep it quite loose and gesturally and painterly. But I think I'm going to put a little bit of more brush strokes, defining some of the green of the hood. And there's a few areas there that I missed out last time that you can see are a bit white. Some of the canvas is still showing through. And her lips as well. I want to put a little bit more work on her lips, and that will probably be it. Maybe a bit more definition on her hair, a few hair strands, and that should be it. And then I'll call it done and move on to the next one. In the end, I came to a point where I decided to call it finished. It's still loose and painterly, which was always the intention, but I knew that if I kept going, I'd probably lose something in it. So I decided to leave it exactly where it is and call it done. Now I need to figure out what comes next. If you have any suggestions, let me know.